So now let us get into it. If you've read Genesis chapter 1, and I suggest you do, if you read it in English, you may have thought that there were some contradictions right in the first verses of the Bible. I would venture to tell you that no, that's not the case. It actually does not contradict itself. And so first of all, you're saying, well, how could the people have read the first few chapters of the Bible and even taken it seriously when it contradicted itself in the first couple of verses? Any critic would say this. But then, did the critic actually read it in Hebrew? Did the critic actually really look at it closely to examine whether or not it actually contradicted itself or not? So let's take a look at "Let there be light." In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? And there was darkness on the face of the deep. And then God said, "Let there be light." And God separated the light from the darkness. In the darkness, the light he called day, and the darkness he called night. So he must have made the sun and the moon, right? So then why does it say that God hung lights in the sky on was it the fourth day? He hung lights in the sky on the fourth day, right? So if he hung lights in the fourth day, then what do you mean that he made the sun and the moon on the first day? First of all, he didn't say that he created the sun and the moon on the first day. He said, "Let there be light." He didn't say that the light was the sun and the moon. So that doesn't contradict itself. But let's take a look at something a more distant argument here. And that argument is that the stars in the sky that God put in there, okay, are so many billions of light years away that their light would not have been able to shine on the earth for us to even be able to see them for billions of years into the future, because the light is so far away it hasn't gotten here yet. Well, I would say to you that, first of all, you're binding God to natural law, material law. Materialists want to explain evolution because evolution had to happen naturally. But you see, God's not bound to natural law because he's supernatural, right? But if that's not a good enough answer, let's take a look at natural law. First of all, a materialist is a person who only believes in what they see. But before we had microscopes or we could see anything, we didn't see microscopic insects. Did that mean that they didn't exist? We haven't proved what oxygen is. We know it's there, but we don't see it. So so a materialist, by the definition of who they are, only knows what's proven and rejects what's not proven. So is that any basis to be an atheist? Because you don't see that there's a God? The question is if there is air or oxygen, then why are we breathing? Okay? So obviously there has to be something there, but where did it come from? Well, if there's a planet and stars in the universe, the question is, well, who made it? Because it has order and complexity, and it's beautiful, and it runs like a clock. Where did the elements come from? Did they just happen over billions of years? Where did it all come from? You see, to be a materialist, you'd have to be blind or not wanting to look or revere that there may be a God or not. So in many senses, being a materialist really is the arrogance or not really wanting there to be a God. It may be just denial of a God. Okay. So I wanted to bring those points out, and I do want to go on to the discrepancy when it comes to plants and when they were made, and the third day, and in the second chapter of Genesis where it says there was no plant on the earth. Actually, it says there was no plant in the field because the plants that were being spoken about were agriculture plants. If you understand your Hebrew, you start to look at this, you start to say there was no plant of the field. God had put Adam and Eve on the earth in the garden to plow the fields, and there was no crop on the ground. These things I wanted to bring out because if you believe that there were discrepancies in the scriptures and you haven't looked at it really closely and understood the Hebrew of it, you may have been confused. And so if I was going to do a series on Genesis chapter 1 and not address these things, then that would be a disservice. So if you're really interested in proving or finding out what the story is or whether there's something that you can believe in when it comes to the scriptures, then we can start with our video series Seeds and go on from there. God bless. Take care.